The thing about the starting classes in Dark Souls is that they're just that. Starting classes. As you progress through the game, you're supposed to change out the weapons you begin with for the better ones that you find on your journey. But what if I told you that there is a starting class that is so good that the gear it starts out with can hold its own against gear you'll come across at the endgame? Well, that's exactly what I discovered, because I decided to find out how hard Dark Souls is when you play as the Bandit. The rules are simple. I'm not allowed to use any gear other than what the Bandit class starts off with. This isn't a level 1 run, so of course I'm allowed to spend my souls as I see fit. Weapon upgrades are locked behind bosses, meaning each boss I beat allows me to upgrade my weapon 1 tier. The only rings I can use to bolster myself are the ones that are required to progress through the game. These being the orange charred ring to get through Izalith, and the Covenant of Artorias to traverse the Abyss. I can deal with Guinevere in any way I choose, simply because I'm too lazy to get the Seance ring. And while I originally planned to follow my prior rule of elemental buffs and NPC summons being allowed after 5 and 10 failed boss attempts respectively, I've decided for this run to not allow these at all. You'll see why soon enough. The Bandit class starts off with the Bandit set of armor, which, while far from the best armor set in the game, has surprisingly solid stats in comparison to some of the other starting gear. As for the shield, the Bandit gets what might be the coolest shield in the entire game, the Spider Shield. Offering 100% physical damage reduction, 30% magic damage reduction, 72% fire damage reduction, and 48% lightning damage reduction, on top of the great stability and the fact that it looks cool as fuck. The Spider Shield is by far one of the most versatile shields in the entire game. But that's not even the best part of the Bandit's outfit. No, the best part is the weapon, the great and glorious Battle Axe. This thing is way too good to be a starting weapon. It's got one of my favorite two-handed movesets in the entire game, and on top of that, this thing staggers absolutely everything in only a few hits. For lack of a better word, it's devastating. Oh, and as for my starter gift, I choose the Master Key, because why the hell not? After waking up in my cell looking like I haven't moisturized in 100 years, I do what everyone would do in my situation, and pick up the great glowing orb that was dropped on top of me by a weirdo pervert from upstairs. I acquire my axe and shield, politely ask said weirdo for his Estus flask since he won't be using it, and make my way up to the balcony behind the boss room. After traversing the fog door, I choose to do a jumping attack, which, due to the fact that the battle axe is overpowered as hell, eradicates his health, requiring only 2 more swings to fell him for good. This allows me to get outside the asylum and catch my flight to Firelink Shrine. Upon arriving, I take a quick loop around the shrine, gathering the souls in order to boost my endurance, since the Bandit begins as a fatty boom boom and I'm all about those quick rolls. From here, I rush through the Undead Burg, chopping down the halls like nobody's business and making it through without a challenge. As I reach the Taurus Demon, I use the ladder to get the high ground and use a plunging attack to erase 1/3 of his health. After that, I just hack away at him, even staggering him before I deliver my final blow. I'm going through this so fast that my mind goes into cruise control, and I completely forget about the Hellkite Dragon, turning back too late and getting myself toasted. But it's not enough to kill me, so I keep true, and after boosting my strength and vitality, lure the Drake down and sneak right past it. The hollows guarding the parish have no clue what happens as I slink by quick as a fox, killing the Berenique Knight for my first Titanite shard and snagging the first Firekeeper soul with it. I meet Andre and upgrade my axe to +2, and then it's off to fight the gargoyles. It's a pretty straightforward fight, but the real hero is the Spider Shield, which really gets to show off here. It allows me to tank every one of the gargoyles' axe strikes with only a little stamina cost, and most of their fire breath as well. To beat them, I only have to wait until one is in the air breathing fire, and then circle around and strike at the other one. Rinse and repeat. They go down with no hassle. I ring the first bell and then visit Andre again for another upgrade, and then turn my attention to the Moonlight Butterfly. Now, the Spider Shield does resist magic damage, but much less than the other elements, so I try not to rely on it too much here. Instead, I try to roll through the butterfly's attacks, which I do manage to do pretty consistently. Otherwise, I just have to wait it out. The axe and my boosted stamina allows me to swing 4 or 5 times before the butterfly pops off, and because of this, I kill it on my first attempt. This gets me yet another axe upgrade, and I head back to Firelink, where I kick Lautrec to his doom and boost my Estus Flask, then use the Master Key to trek down to Blighttown in order to put Quelaag to rest. While I hadn't grabbed any moss in the Darkroot Garden, it doesn't matter because the poison resistance my shield gives me makes the health loss negligible. I also choose to two-hand my axe since most of Quelaag's attacks are easy to telegraph. My damage turned out to be a lot less than I'd hoped, so instead of sticking near her front and easily dodging her sword slashes, I focused on circling around to her back legs and lopping away there, in order to get the most bang for my buck. This actually takes longer than it should have, as Quelaag will constantly turn towards you and make you miss his swing, but after several long repetitive minutes, I managed to finish her off and ring the second bell. Before heading back up, I visit the Ceaseless Discharge, tricking the poor fool into slipping on a pool of lava, and then, quite cruelly, I might say, hack at his fingers until he falls off into nothingness. It's a shame, but I really need the path open later, so fuck him. Another visit to Andre gets my axe to +5, and I also put a few tiers into my shield, boosting its stability a little. I decide to take care of the Capra Demon and Gaping Dragon now, as I was planning on getting the Large Ember anyway, and thought why the hell not. So, heading back down through the Undead Berg by way of the Hellkite Dragon, I nearly regret the decision, as the Capra Demon and his mutts gang up on me instantly. I survive, of course, because I'm awesome, and take to the safety of the balcony. The hounds here are a perfect example as to why I love this axe. Its R2 is an overhead that doesn't get caught on the stone wall next to you, which can be a nuisance when you're using other weapons here. It's also enough to fell the hounds in one hit, so if both are up there, you won't find yourself being overwhelmed. Otherwise, the Capra is a bit of a bitch. I try a jumping attack off the balcony, and unfortunately I fly too far, limiting my damage. But I take the balcony again and do a plunging attack, which wipes out over half of his health bar. Then it's just a few simple swings with my trusty axe, and the Capra Demon goes down. I rush through the depths to the Large Ember in the Butcher's Kitchen, and then sprint right through to the Gaping Dragon. The great big goofball falls flat on his face, and two quick R2s deal over 700 damage to him right off the bat. It does this multiple times in the fight, and each time, sizable chunks of health just disappear. Otherwise, I just keep to its left and swing at the tail and legs, finishing the dragon off without a hassle. Giving the Ember to Andre gets me a +7 battle axe, which is more than enough for now. Then it's back off to Firelink Shrine, and by extension, the Asylum. Despite the Stray Demon being a boss that is usually reserved for later on, I'm still doing solid damage to him. His biggest damage dealer is the Red Fart Mist, which to me has an awkward hitbox. I always think I'm out of its range, but no, I never am. This gets me killed once, as a panic roll after being knocked down takes me directly into the way of his staff. Otherwise, it's pretty simple to get him into the rhythm of either doing a Staff Slam AoE or the Big Fat Butt Smack, which itself has a weaker AoE effect. If you can get the timing down and rush in and out at the right times, it's pretty easy to finish him off. Before I head back though, I also kill the Black Knight and grab the Peculiar Doll. When you have nothing to pick up, Sen's Fortress is completely forgettable. Unless of course you walk into one of the pendulums like I did, and then get hit by a lightning bolt which puts you in the deepest, darkest pits of hell. Thank God I was carrying Homeward Bones. My second run though is more successful. Upon reaching the top, I hack up the giant to make the boss arena a little more maneuverable, as well as grab myself a Titanite chunk, and then it's time for the Iron Golem. At the beginning of the fight, I dodge through to the bridge on the far side and take a few swings, and the Golem replies by throwing his Wind Slash attack at me 3 consecutive times. His efforts are futile though, and when I return the favour, I put the Golem on spaghetti legs. Surprisingly, I don't knock him off with this, and he recovers, only for me to do the same thing again. This time, thankfully, the Golem tumbles from the tower, and I make my way to Anor Londo. I deal with the Painting Guardians trying to block my way across the rafters, and take the winding staircase down so I can admire some art and visit the Painted World. Priscilla gets knocked out of her adaptive camo in a few quick swings, and the rest of it is just a breeze. In fact, if I hadn't gotten greedy, this fight would have been a no-hit, but my ego is my greatest weakness. My damage is good, and her attacks are easy to avoid. The whole fight takes maybe 90 seconds. An awkward arrow by the Black Knight sets me back, but I manage to sneak by the archers on my second attempt. I visit the giant blacksmith, getting my axe to +9 and shield to +5, and then it's time for Anor Londo's resident odd couple. My strategy here was actually pretty simple. Bring the shield out, keep it up, block what I can, and then hack away. I can take most of Ornstein's hits without much loss to my stamina, and the lightning defense of my shield really minimizes the damage that does. The only downside is that I must one-hand my axe, and that really cuts into my damage output. So, the fight becomes one big cat and mouse game, with me backing away until Ornstein tries one of his big leaping stabs, and then taking a side and hitting him once or twice. It's a damn good plan, but as with any ONS fight, one mistake can cost you. Unfortunately, I made a couple, and I die twice before even getting to the second phase. When I do enter the second phase, it's with a decent amount of flasks and some sore fingers, but I manage to get Smo in a loop around the pillars, baiting out his big attacks before returning some of my own. I'm two-handing my axe now, so my damage is leagues better, and this makes the second phase an absolute cakewalk, even allowing me to stagger him right at the end of the fight. Guinevere learns what I think of her thoughterry, and that of course pisses off Gwendolyn. So I head down to his arena. Of course his bitch ass is all talk, so he tries to teleport away from me while tossing magic and arrows at me like a coward. This doesn't work. I put him in his place and use his souls to boost my stats even further. I then make friends with a giant sock puppet, who asks me to move some tableware around his awesome underground lair and open up the second half of the game. Before doing anything else, I head into New Londo, getting the next Firekeeper soul, draining the water, picking up as many chunks as I can find, and securing myself the very large ember. Then I head back to boost my Estus, before I visit Andre again and get my battle axe to +13. So, it was back through Blighttown and then into the Demon Ruins to fight the Fire Sage. Like the other demon bosses of his kind, the Fire Sage has simple AoE attacks that allow you to get in close and chop him up. If you get lucky, he'll fall into a pattern of repeating these over and over. Just know which is which. And with both hands wrapped around my sexy axe, he proves to be no challenge at all. Centipede is even easier. My huge health bar gives me lots of leeway in traversing the lava fields, and then it's just a matter of waiting for the hideous abomination to bring the fight to me. It tries everything, even throwing out a weird lava pool attack I can't remember ever seeing it do, but I chop it down to size without breaking a sweat. Using the ring from this fight, which is allowed in the rules I might add, I casually stroll through the unholy nightmare that is Izalith, my retinas taking permanent damage from looking at the lava. I swear to God this shit is more dangerous than looking directly into the sun. I get to the bed of chaos pretty easily, and after breaking its first bulb, it throws a hissy fit and pushes me into nothingness. Thankfully, next time around I get the second bulb and find my way to the Heart of Darkness, putting an end to my misery and landing my first Lord Soul. I use some of my souls to buy the Crest of Artorias from Andre, which I use to make my way deep into Darkroot Garden to fight Sif. My first attempt, I decide to take the doggy head on, with the intention of running beneath its legs and doing my damage from there. But this goes awry, leading me into an attack I could have easily avoided. I also then make a dumb decision and try and heal right in front of Sif, who cuts me down with ease. My second attempt though is far better than my first. I get underneath Sif instantly and swing away, carving giant chunks out of its health bar. A lucky R2 does an astonishing 570 damage, and despite Sif's valiant attempt to down me, my combos do so much damage that Artorias' faithful companion goes down in less than a minute. On the way back, I take another path down into Darkroot Basin, cutting the heads from the Hydra and showing off the mating dance of the Bandit to dusk. Then I teleport back to Anor Londo, where I defeat the Boars in a fair one-on-one duel, die to Seath due to him not liking my mating dance, and then navigating the rest of the archives to make it to the Crystal Caves. I test out my damage by double-handing the axe and going for the weak spot on Seath's belly, and immediately think this is going to be easy as hell. My axe isn't even maxed out yet and it's dealing hundreds of damage a swing, tallying up over 1,000 by the end of my first combo. But then who pops out of nowhere but one of the walking oysters that hang out outside Seath's boss arena? This lowers my confidence a bit, as fighting multiple enemies is always a nuisance, especially in a fight like this where the crystal AoE attacks can end the fight in seconds. Just one of these bastards can ruin the run. Thankfully though, Seath isn't a fan of them either, and he takes care of it for me. I almost get crushed by his wacky tail smash attack, but it's not enough to kill me. It's really just a matter of hitting him enough times in the belly. Incredibly easy fight. One last visit to Andre, and I get my axe fully upgraded. At this point, it's really just a rush to the rest of the bosses. So, I head back down to Darkroot Basin, and am transported to Ulsil. My first go at the Sanctuary Guardian ends up with me on the losing end, but my second attempt... Good God. This fight here is the perfect example as to why the battle axe is so good. So I'm just going to show you the whole fight. 5 two-handed R2s turn this boss, one that I always take multiple attempts to beat, to absolute mincemeat. By far the easiest Guardian fight I've ever had playing this game. Instead of taking on Artorias, I journey back through the catacombs to Pinwheel, who goes down like a fucking scrub to get myself the Rite of Kindling, which I wasn't certain I'd need, but got just in case. Then, heading back to the Daughter of Chaos, I kill off the Fair Lady and take her Firekeeper soul as well. Then, it was time for Artorias. Thankfully, my kick came through with flying colours. Artorias' sword bounces off my shield like a fly, so I don't have to worry about relying on my dodge for all of my defense. It also means that I can be a lot more aggressive with him, staying close and getting more than just a few measly swings in. A couple of really bad rolls on my part almost spelled death for me, but some slick dodges right after get me back in the fight. When Artorias goes to buff himself, my axe staggers him out of it every time. Like the Sanctuary Guardian, it's the easiest Artorias has ever been for me. So much so that I beat him on my first try, with more than half of my flasks still intact. Wasting no time, I take the fight down to Manus, who I've become much better at simply due to the hours of attempts I took to beat him in the Thief run. I'm still not perfect, but far better than I was. I two-hand the axe again, so I never did actually test to see if it can stand up against Manus' melee attacks. It doesn't matter though, since I can avoid 90% of his attacks in the first phase pretty easily. The only real issue is his magic. See, I like keeping my distance in this fight as I find it easier to telegraph his attacks, but even if I know it's coming, his magic is still very hard to avoid and obliterates my health bar if I get hit with it. This unfortunately gets me killed several times. So, I take a different approach. I get in close, keep up my strafing, and I bury my axe in Manus' legs. When he uses magic here, I have enough time to be out of the way of almost all of the attack. Hiding behind him manages to avoid all the magic sometimes. And with his magic more or less neutered, Manus has nothing for me. So it's only a matter of time before he falls at my feet on my 4th attempt. My good friend Goff, or Go, does me a solid, dropping Calamite with the most baller arrow shot in recorded history, and I head down to its lair to finish the job. The battle axe is still so good that despite Calamite's massive health bar, each swing takes huge chunks out of it. With my trusty axe, the dragon barely feels like a boss anymore. It's not a long fight at all, and honestly a pretty boring one. Just getting between his legs and hacking at them until he stomps or tries his bull rush is a pretty foolproof method. When he raises up and breathes fire, I can get several big swings in for massive damage. For the 3rd time this run, a boss is the easiest it has ever been for me, and he goes down on my first try. With the DLC done, I head back to New Londo with the 4 Kings on my mind. Despite it definitely not being the best idea, I just decide to tank their attacks. I have around 40 points in Vitality at this point, and the only thing that does any significant damage is its purple fart gas explosion, and thankfully I can avoid that most of the time. In fact, the only thing that makes this fight difficult at all is the fact that they have such huge health bars. It takes a lot longer to put down one of the Kings than I feel it should, but ultimately it doesn't matter that much, because like Artorias, I finished this fight with more than half of my flasks. With only Nito to go before I take on Gwyn, I rushed through the Tomb of the Giants as quickly as possible, dropping down into Nito's Pit of Despair and immediately two-handing the axe. Why? Because I found out that if you block while two-handing, his cheeky little sword attack can be avoided completely. No clue why, but it works. I keep to the back so as to not wake the big bastards, and after dealing with the little ones hastily, I get in close and hit Nito with all I've got. Once again, the battle axe is a godsend. I can easily get in 4 consecutive R1s before I run out of stamina, and this is more than enough to take away over a third of Nito's health. Then, I recover, heal the Skelly Bones again, and hit Nito again. It takes a grand total of 11 hits to finish him off. Not even 3 full combos to end the fight. I hate to repeat myself, but it was the easiest Nito fight I've ever done. The battle axe is so good that I genuinely feel that the game is getting easier as it goes on. Now, there was only Gwyn left. I offered the Lord Souls, walked through the kiln, and upon entering his fog gate, rolled right through his first attack. Then I just blocked the next attack of Gwyn's combo and parried the other. Rinse and repeat. I even throw in the occasional hit as he's getting up just for the fuck of it, and Gwyn dies like a bitch. So there it is. Dark Souls is the Bandit. I've stated it throughout the vid, but this might honestly be the strongest starting class in the game. I was shocked at not only how well the Spider Shield handled late game bosses, but how consistently good the Battle Axe's damage was throughout the game. It's the rare case of a weapon, despite its awkward scaling, actually feeling like it's growing with you as you upgrade it. It deals just the right amount of damage for where you are, and sometimes way more than it needs to, like in the Sanctuary Guardian fight. In fact, I'd argue that it's too good for a starting weapon. The other classes have a lot to live up to. Thank you for watching. If you like this vid, like and subscribe, and come back for more. Till next time, bye bye.